I have no right to ask this of any of you, but will you follow me one last time to a Middle-earth grand tournament up at Warhammer World? That's right, Mithril is officially heading back up to Nottingham at Warhammer World for the 2025 Middle-earth Grand Tournament, a format where we play 6 games over the course of a weekend, and we have to have a 700-point army for both good and evil, and you will play 3 games with each over the course of 6 games. And as I always like to do before going up to an event, I like to document my my army making journey and kind of give you guys a look at what I've been doing and what I'm planning on taking, and get your thoughts on army construction and how you think the lists are going to go, and just start a dialogue and get chatting and soak up some of the hobby awesomeness with you guys. So yes, as I said, this is a tournament where we have to have 2 armies, both at the 700 point limit for good, 1 for good and 1 for evil. Now, of course, army construction is a lot different now in the new edition, with the reformatting of the game into what is effectively Legendary Legions, every army being comprised of 1 specific army composition list, and only being able to pick from that. It's then lent itself to some interesting choices and interesting thought processes when it's come to what armies am I going to take for this event. And as you know, theme is always key, so I will always try and recreate a scene from the films, a scene from the books, a particular battle that I really enjoyed. I think I've done Helm's Deep more times than I care to imagine. And I was umming and ahhing, going through, pouring through the book, and I have settled on probably what is one of my favourite scenes from the films, from the Fellowship of the Ring, where grown men cry, they weep at the loss of such a hero, a valiant man who leapt to the defence of hobbits, the breaking of the Fellowship on the shores of the Anduin at the seeing seat of Amon Hen. This really helps now that obviously in the book, now that the Lurtz's Scouts and the Breaking of the Fellowship army lists are listed themselves, so it's very easy to try and kind of work out lists for. This decision was also partly fueled by the acquisition I made at Throne of Skulls. I was very lucky to get £20 worth of Games Workshop vouchers for, was it Christmas or birthday last year? One of the two. And then, no, I think it was birthday. And then up at Warhammer World for the Throne of Skulls, I had £20 in vouchers burning a hole in my pocket. What is the natural thing I will go and do? Let's go and spend an additional £140 on a massive terrain piece of resin, which we need for Quest of the Ring Bearer. I'll give you 3 guesses as to what that is. That's right, we bought Amon Hen. We have the scene seat of Amon Hen, the beautiful sculpted 4-drop kit from Games Workshop. So that has been painted up, and I wanted to try and build a board around that, because if you drop £140 on a piece of terrain, you need to try and get some use out of that. So yes, I will be taking the Breaking of the Fellowship versus Lurtz's Scout. So what do I have in my 700 point lists for both armies? Well, as you can imagine, it's probably fairly obvious to work out what I've got for the Breaking of the Fellowship list, but I'm going to go through the army anyway. We are starting off with Aragorn Strider coming in at 160 points. He is going to be the army general, and any Fellowship models must be included in his warband. I then have Legolas. He has no additional equipment in this list, so he comes in at 100 points. Gimli, also with no additional equipment options for him, so he comes in also at 100 points. I have Boromir of Gondor, of course, not with a shield. He didn't have a shield at Amon Hen, so he's not getting one in this army list, and he's coming in at 95 points. As you can see, I've got this lovely converted Boromir, which was converted up from an old Metal Fellowship model, intermixed with some of the new plastic parts from the new plastic Faramir, and the base of it being the plastic Madrigal model. As a Boromir sculpt doesn't actually have any model where he's blowing his horn and has an elven cloak, I wanted to kind of try and represent him as best I could in the Battle of Amon Hen. I've also painted up the Breaking of the Fellowship Boromir in metal, and I have, of course, because I'm that extra, painted up a dying Boromir, which I will swap out whatever Boromir I'm using for this model if at any point he starts taking wounds to arrows, because that's just how extra I am. The reason I painted up the Breaking of the Fellowship Boromir is that I'm not entirely sure how Games Workshop sit with conversions nowadays, so I'd rather have all bases covered. So we have 3 Boromirs, but only 1 will be going in the list. We then, of course, we have the Ring Bearer, Frodo Baggins, at 55 points. He does have the Mithril Coat and Sting, which bring him up to a total of 75 points. Samwise Gamgee coming in at 40 points. Meriadoc Brandybuck at 10 points. And Peregrine Gatook at 10 points as well. Now, The only issue I had with doing this army is if you tot everything up, and even if you add, because Aragorn can have a bow and Boromir can have a shield, if you add those extra kind of point buffs to them, the army only really comes in just shy of 600 points. And there's no real other option for maneuverability if you're trying to keep it fully themey. Because in the old rules, you've had a bit more flexibility. Models could have elven cloaks. There's a bit more scope for war gear. And of course, Gandalf in the Fellowship was an option as well. So the Fellowship would operate generally quite similar points quite well. But of course, Gandalf's not at Amon Hen. He is probably still fighting the Balrog at this point. And I'm facing the option of, if I want to stay fully themey, do I play over 100 points down, which genuinely was a consideration I made. Now, the good thing about the breaking of the Fellowship list is that it's encompassing every scenario from when the Fellowship breaks, and that's technically when Gandalf falls into the pits of Moria after fighting the Balrog. So we also have the options of adding in Haldir and Lothlorien warriors as the Fellowship get to Lothlorien before they make their way down the Anduin, and the Battle of Amon Hen ensues. So what I've actually decided is the army itself is going to be the Fellowship, as I've just said, but we're also going to be adding in Haldir, Galadriel Captain, with an elf bow who comes in at 75 points. And I've also added in a Lothlorien warrior with a banner, just to get my points total back up to the desired level. And it's going to kind of be the breaking of the Fellowship encompassing the point from where Gandalf falls. So we're going to have Haldir, we're going to have the Lothlorien warriors. It's made some interesting decisions when it comes to the board, and I'll go through that in a minute. But that is the list, and that comes in at 698 points, 10 models in total, with a breakpoint of 5. If you're not taking extra Boromirs, it's only 10 models to get done. There's a lot of special rules that come with this list, and this is where the additional war gear options that they would normally have come into play, but they've been given them now inherently in the list as special rules. Start off with, they've taken the leaf out of the Quest of the Ringbearer book for giving the Fellowship the gifts that Galadriel will give them when they reach Lothlorien, and that's where we're up to now. We're about to film Lothlorien, so we'll be getting that going forward to Quest of the Ringbearer anyway. So it's a really good chance to get some experience with these rules as well. So Frodo gets the Light of Elendil. At the start of each activation, he rolls a dice on a 3+. He counts as having cast the Blinding Light magical power. Sam gets Elven Rope. He always counts as rolling a 6 for any climb test, jump test, or leap test he's required to take. Merry and Pippin have the Daggers of the Noldorin, those nice shiny daggers. These are Elven-made weapons, and they can reroll Feltal wounds when making strikes. Aragorn, of course, gets his Elven Dagger. It's an Elven-made weapon, and it has the Uruk-hai Bane special rule. Legolas, aside from getting a ridiculous buff anyway for the new edition, he gets his Bow of the Galadrim. So whilst he's in 3-inch of a friendly Lothlorien model, he gets to reroll failed hit rolls for making shooting attacks. Gimli gets Galadriel's Locks. He can use this to reroll a single dice in a dual roll. He can only do this 3 times per game. And Boromir gets his Golden Belt, so he gains Woodland Creature. So he can run through the forest to try and save Merry and Pippin, as you see him do in the film. They also, as long as Frodo is alive on the battlefield, Friendly Fellowship gain Fearless, and they never count as being broken as long as Frodo is alive, even if Frodo just happened to escape the board for scenarios like Reconnoiter or missions where he has to get off the board to score points. It's important to know that the Fearless rule only affects Fellowship models, so it doesn't affect Haldir or the Lothlorien warrior, so they will still have set courage tests for charging terrifying enemies and any other reason. We also have the Blessing of Galadriel, so friendly models in this list always count as having the Fortify Spirit magical power cast on them, even when they've got no will remaining. And they are also shielded from unfriendly eyes, and this is where they've taken the war gear away from additional options, because they all had Elven cloaks at Amon Hen, so they've given you inherently, and they've kind of incorporated that into the cost anyway, and just taken away a lot of the gump for adding points. They all gain Elven cloaks for free, which is a awesome buff, considering that now Elven cloaks give you Stalk Unseen, and there's a -1 penalty for ranged attacks targeting them. I'm excited to take an updated version of this to an event and see how the Breaking the Fellowship runs as an encompassing Legendary Legion, given the new edition. So of course, we have our Valiant Fellowship at Amon Hen, ready to fight back the hordes of Isengard and defend the Ringbearer as he flees across the Anduin to start his journey through Emyn Muil. So what are we taking for the evil side? Well, it stands to reason that if you're going to take the Fellowship at Amon Hen, you're going to take a metric ton of Uruk-hai scouts, and that's exactly what I've done. Now, I have done Isengard a few times for various tournaments, for Throne of Skulls. I've done them for GT once before as well, but I've always done the armoured variant of Isengard. I've always done the Assault on Helm's Deep. So we've had Pikemen, we've had Siege Ballistas, Berserkers, all the like. I've never actually had the chance or the impetus to want to run a Scout army. And, you know, having got all these awesome metal sculpts, which I think personally are much nicer than the plastic sculpts. The plastic sculpts aren't bad by any reason. But the metal sculpts for me are top tier when it comes to Uruk-hai. I really enjoy those sculpts. Unfortunately, you can't get any without shields, so I have had to have some plastics in there just to make up the numbers of models without shields. But yes, I'll be running a full accompaniment and cohort of Lurtz's scouts in pursuit of the Fellowship for this event, and the list breaks down as such. Of course, we have the man himself, Lurtz, the general. The army general, he has to be the leader for this list, coming in at 100 points. He is leading a warband which consists of an Uruk-hai scout banner. We have 9 Uruk-hai with shields and 5 Uruk-hai without shields. And I've done something a little bit fun here as well. I've tried to incorporate as many Amon Hen models as I can, but I have got 2 of the unarmoured Uruks carrying Merry and Pippin because it just looks fun when you're playing the army. We then have Ugluk, who is the other named hero option for this list. Unfortunately, we have lost Malhir and Vrasku, but we have managed to maintain Ugluk, so we have him coming in at 75 points. He is leading an Uruk-hai drummer, because if you're going to run scouts in this edition, you're definitely running a drummer, and I'll tell you for why in a minute. He also has 6 Uruk-hai with shields and 5 Uruk-hai without shields. We have an Uruk-hai captain with a 2-handed axe, which is the only variant of war gear they have available to them now. He's leading 9 Uruk-hai bowmen. As you can see, I've painstakingly also strung these bows. I still have to string Haldir and Leglesses, but all the Uruk-hai bowmen have been strung. And we have a second Uruk-hai captain who is leading a warband of 5 Uruk-hai with shields, and that list is coming in at 694 points, with a total of 45 models and a breakpoint of 22.5. And of course, we've got some super themey, super awesome rules to go along with this list, which I'm going to go through now for you. We have Relentless March, first off. So basically every model in this list increases its move value to 8, and when combined... they also get Woodland Creature as well, which is very important because they travel great distances running through forest to pursue the Fellowship, so it makes sense to have Woodland Creature and not be affected by that kind of terrain. But when combined with the aforementioned Drum, who can sound the drum at the start of a turn during the Heroic Actions phase, I think it is, and models within range 12. So effectively it's a Heroic March, but with a range of 12 and a finishing distance of 12, increase their move by a further 3. So Uruk-hai scouts in this list are then moving 11 inches, which is ridiculously fast. They're outrunning cavalry, which is insane. You do not know pain, you do not know fear. The breakpoint for an Alerts scout list is 66% rather than 50, so it means I will not be breaking at the 22.5 limit. And Lurtz gains the General Hunter special rule, and he may declare a heroic combat for free every turn without depleting his might store. So there's some really cool theming rules there for Lurtz's scouts, and I'm super excited to get this army on the board and on the tabletop. I've wanted to Amon Hen for a while, and I know quite a lot of people have done Amon Hen at tournaments before. I've seen some really lovely boards and some really lovely dioramas before, and I've never really got around to doing it myself, and I'm really excited to have, finally got around to doing it now with the Metal Uruk-hai scouts. We've got a little bit of just some finishing touches and some flourishes. Ugluk's got the Trail of Gore coming down from the orc head in his hand. We've also got the Uruks carrying Merry and Pippin. Got my converted Boromir, and just some really fun things that I'm going to try and do across throughout the course of my games for 2 really, really super themey armies. So of course I'm doing a display board. Why would I not be doing a display board? So it's going to be the idea is it's going to be a long thin board, and we're going to have Amon Hen, the Singing Seat, sitting up one end on top of a hill, and I'm going to gradually kind of scale the board down to the shoreline at the bottom, going lengthways down the board where Frodo and Sam are going to get some little boats and do a little bit of water effect for there. And then obviously as we work our way back up to the Singing Seat, the middle section will have the bulk of the Uruk-hai with Boromir, Merry and Pippin and Lurtz. And then at the top by the Singing Seat, which is actually painted as well. I have done so much painting. I am actually prepared to take armies to an event before the deadline. That never happened for me. And yeah, so the seeing seat up the top where Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli are going to be with Ugluk and another load of orcs. And we're going to go ham with trees and really build up the woodland aspect. Got a couple of little cool little scenery bits to put in there. And then we're going to, yes, I've got the boats down the bottom, bit of water effects, some ruins. I think I've got a one of the statue heads that Frodo walks past. That's going to be going on the board, I think, depending on how heavy it's going to be, because Amon Hen is not a light piece of kit. And then, yeah, we're going to really kind of build up the woodland aspect and try and make it look as Amon Hen-y as it possibly can. How the hell did the elves fit into this? They weren't at Amon Hen. It was just a fellowship. They weren't there. They'd long since left Lothlorien, and they definitely weren't there. The only way I've managed to think about incorporating them into the board is to treat it a little bit like a DVD chapter menu and kind of have a little bit of an add-on somewhere on the board, either behind the seeing seat or by the shoreline, with a little bit, no bigger than like a DVD case, just extra little display board, and really make that kind of look Lothlorien-y, and just have that as the previous chapter Lothlorien. So they're incorporated into the display board, but they're not on the main display board with the Battle of Amon Hen going on, but they're still there, and I can kind of separate them out a little bit. So it treats it as like a DVD menu, in my mind. Is the only way I could think of incorporating them into the list without having to run over 100 points down. I've got some cool, fun little things I'm going to try and do with my opponents during games. I'm going to keep those a little bit more under wraps, and I'll go through it a bit more kind of when we're up there and when I do my wrap-up. But let's just say it involves buying 6 rings. This is also a great chance to kind of get models done, because now we are restarting Quest of the Ring Bearer. We filmed Khazad-dûm, editing that as we speak as well. We're going to do Lothlorien in the next couple of weeks, probably after we get back from GT now, because everyone's in full army prep. And obviously the next section of scenarios is the 3 scenarios at Amon Hen. So we need the seeing seat, we need the fellowship in the Elven cloaks, and I need all the Uruk-hai painted. And it was a great chance to kind of marry in armies alongside getting stuff prepared for Quest of the Ring Bearer, so we can carry on, just blast out the next 4 or 5 scenarios. And then we're into 2 towers finally, with fellowship members that may or may not have survived. I couldn't possibly tell you right now. But yes, so that is me. That is my preparation for the Middle-earth Grand Tournament 2025. I'm super pumped to go back up. And again, like I always say, Nottingham is always a great weekend away. I will keep you posted with updates of Amon Hen as I get around to building the actual board. And you will see Khazad-dûm coming live very, very soon. It's taking a bit longer to edit than I thought it was going to, because we're trying out some new camera angles. I've got to do some pickup shots and get some photos. I'm going to set the boards up again once Amon Hen's out of the way, so I can take some close-up shots. We're going to be changing the camera angles again for Lothlorien, because we now know what does and doesn't work with the new space we have in Mithril Towers. But that's enough from me, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for video notifications. It really helps the channel out. And until next time, guys, take care. And as always, happy hobbying. Bye, guys.